in 2004, I made a trip to Europe and passing through Vienna and plan to go on to Czechoslovakia. Then in Vienna, I stayed in an old hostel near the post office by Wagner. And then I walk around near the Stephen Dome, the cathedral, the square area. And in the evening, early evening, and I get lost. I don't know how to find my hostel back. In that area, it's a very old area in Vienna. In the back street of they have many small art gallery. And also I passing through the art gallery and I saw the exhibition. I think it's quite interesting. So I just walk in and look at the exhibition. At the same time, I want to ask the direction, how to get back to my hostel. Then I found out the manager or director of art gallery. And she can speak pretty good English because she lived in America for a long time. And so after I finish, look at it, and then I ask my direction. And Herta, that's the director's name, Herta. Later I know her last name, Wittgenstein. That's a very, very important person. She's a relative of the Wittgenstein family. But anyway, and she said, do you have time? And I come here again, we can talk a little bit more. So next I think, late afternoon, I went to the art gallery there and talked about an hour or so. And just before I want to leave, and she said, why don't you come to Vienna? That's to my surprise. But I said, well, in my mind, Vienna is a very expensive place to stay. And I don't know anyone, right? And so I said, well, okay, I think about it. Then afterwards, after travel through Europe, I went back to Beijing. At the time, I just started a studio in Beijing a year earlier at the 79F factory. And in the area, I met several young artists. They're from Vienna. I just mentioned to them, someone asked me to go to Vienna. And when they look at the name, they said, if she's the one, ask me, that must be true invitation, just verbally, because then I know her last name is very, very important, because her uncle or someone is the most important aesthetic philosopher at the beginning of the 20th century, because Wittgenstein, because he later on became a dean at Trinity College at Cambridge or Oxford, you see. So they said, now if you invite any member of that family, you can take upon it. So I made a call to her that I said, no, I will come maybe next year, beginning next year. That's in August. And said, why don't you come as soon as possible? So I will provide you a place to stay. And you can stay, as long as you want. So in November, early November, maybe middle of November, I just bought a ticket from Beijing, fly to Vienna. And she wanted to provide me a small apartment to stay. but I found out the apartment a little bit far from the art gallery. And but at the art gallery, she has a small corner for her to take nap. You see, I said, well, I stay here, we'll be fine. So I just a small corner. I put the curtain that will be my sleeping place. And in Vienna, I stayed there. I think that became a very, very important period for me. Because at that time, somehow I be able to meet some of the people over there. And they are not necessarily artists. Some are philosophers and mathematicians, all these things. Anyway, so if I come, I should do something. So I start to put some my thinking, right, into the action. But I didn't bring anything, so I just used simple things, and I used some acrylic paintings there. And so I started to cut the pieces of things and formulate all different concepts, all these things. And this is this is a treasure box. And then later on, further, this first year I did a very little things, but I formulated some of the ideas. I only stayed about 30 days. Went back to Beijing before Christmas. See. And from there, then I make an actual sculpture or painting after the Vienna. Well, the first year I stayed in Beijing, actually I just wondering, I didn't do that much. And when I left Vienna, and she said, why don't you come next year? So, following year, I went back to Vienna, and this time I stayed about a little bit more than 2 months. And I also bring some of my work, right, to show her. Okay. Well, this is the treasure box. I started in Vienna. And the first year I did some of the pieces, very simple one, and I developed into sculpture. And then after 3 or 4 weeks, I went to, then the rest of the year, actually I concentrate to make these sculptures. And I cannot find the pieces, but that's okay. And I also developed a whole bunch of panels, color panels, how to mix the paintings color. But at the time, I don't even have a so-called interaction, participation, and a choice. But usually, when I work out any artwork, I never have a pre-concept mind. Just let it go. Later on, I just think about what I'm really doing, and then give a kind of a topic or title. And that's my first trip to Vienna. And then after that, went back to Beijing, and I spent most of the time try to make this small piece into actual kind of sculpture or panels. And so second year, I went there, I think in the middle of June. And I bring along some of the pieces I have and continue to develop just to show her my work. And then I still continue to develop more new things, mostly in a small model or these things, because though it's a very small, tiny pieces, but what I intended is a super big, or a small piece like this. Actually, I expect when the bigger, the even panel, color panel, should be like a 2 meter tall, rather than like this small. And you find out later on, take the photograph of my sample sculpture. I always put a small black figure there. Just want to indicate the scale of the actual sculpture. So, close to the end of the second year, and she said to me she wants to publish, make all my work an art book. At that time, I don't have any actual size, only a small model. But I used a small model, make a series of photographs. And actually, I don't have any photographer. I just start doing myself. See, that's a series. That's the first piece of my work. And also, at that time, I used a small piece, take these photographs and the paintings, all these things. Then I just buy some plywood. I bought some plywood and then painted with normal paint, become big piece. And I think these things are still in Vienna. As you can see, just put it in her studio, and the actual small model I make is a sample over here. Then she also interviewed me, then later on become an article, and I think this is a very well written article about my work. Just like what happened in Princeton, I never intend to do anything. They asked me to publish my work. And in Vienna, before I never have an exhibition, as a public never see my work. And she said she want to publish an art book for me. I think that's a compliment. And saying she will have an exhibition in Vienna following year. And that's why I went to Vienna again in 2006 in the summer, because prepare for the exhibition. But because of some events, the exhibition discontinued after the opening. And that's my experience in Vienna. But at the same time, in Vienna, I'm very fortunate because Herta want to introduce me to the culture department to meet the director who's in charge of architecture and art, visual art. And for over a month, she's never been able to arrange that person to meet me. But just one day, I'll go to another place. I don't even remember where. I met a guy, and he said, after a short conversation, and he said, "Why don't you come to my office? Let's have coffee together." So I took that business card back to the art gallery, show her, say, "This guy asked me to go to have a coffee." And she said, "That's the person I tried to make the arrangement to meet me. Unable to, because in Vienna, the business, they don't say the director of, they just say the director of which studio, like a department. Never mention any other things, you see. That's how I be able to meet a quite important architect and you see the position of director is very high because in the cultural department they only have 5 so-called divisions, you see. One is performing art, and one is music, and one is literature, and the other one is art and architecture. And all these people later on become quite good friends.